Okay,
Yeah.
go on. All right, Drew.
So we're such a relational place, and people really matter at Molloy. So I echo what Kathy is saying. So I really miss seeing everybody. I miss the conversations I have walking to and from my car and around the campus. So I wanted to find a way for us to come together. And I thought, well, normally we do that often. We have coffee. So I thought, let's have a coffee break together. And then we decided, I turned it over to Kathy and asked her to coordinate it. And she brought in the mission ambassadors and decided we'll do a coffee talk. So really Monday through Thursday, we'll have a small little program meant to be uplifting, meant to help us maintain a positive attitude. It's very stressful. I'm sure we're all experiencing those kinds of things. So the idea is for us to come together as community, to be in solidarity, and to try to view things from a positive perspective. And so that's the purpose of this. So I told Kathy that I would be glad to kick it off. And so I thought what I would share with you, many of you know that I write poetry, and I've been doing that really for probably 25 years. So I wanted to share with you some selections that I wrote about 6 years ago that I call Lessons from the Farm. So you probably can't see well, it's a really sunny day, but I'm up at our farm in Massachusetts. So these were ones that I started writing. Karen and I were in Vermont at Shelburne Farms. I don't know if any of you it's on Lake Champlain, about halfway up the state. And there are a lot of historic buildings there you can tour. There's a mansion you can go in, you can have lunch. And then they have a big barn and animals. So the purpose of these poems is really to talk about lessons that we can learn from various animals and living creatures. And so the first one I wrote is called Ode to a Pig. Have you ever seen a happier pig, content in the moment and the mud, making small grunts of happiness burrowed in this sticky mess? His home, ugly to our eye, but with places to lie, unsightly to see, but a place he accepts to be. His world he has remade, making the best of his moment in the shade. A lesson for us all in this one little stall. So after we left Shelburne Farms, we were driving south, and I looked out the side window and I thought to myself, I can't believe it, but I think I just saw a camel out in a barnyard. So I drove around, turned around, went back, and sure enough, there was this camel out in this barnyard with a bunch of sheep and goats. And so I wrote this poem called The Camel and the Goat. What is this camel with two humps doing in Vermont with goats with only bumps? I tried to devise from the image that I see the story of inclusion and the need to be in a group and to belong, despite differences that might seem deeply startling and wrong. Feeding from the same trough as the goats, the camel nearly twice the size, a jarring spectacle that is both unusual and wise. Does he know that he is not the same? Perhaps has made the choice to be part camel and part goat, and clearly part of the group, despite his much, much larger hoof. And one of the things we do when we're out and about, Karen and I, we like to drive and go off the main roads and wander around. So Karen has this aura about her that animals are really attracted to. So if we stop by a fence, whatever's on the other side of the fence comes up to the fence to see Karen. And so I wrote this one called The Vermont Cow. You might think a cow exists just to give milk, but that is really not its ilk. Put it on the hill amid the wild rye and watch as it is content to lie nonchalantly in the midday sun, or take to the barbed fence on a measured run. Greeting me, the casual guest, hoping that I will pat its head or rub its chest. The cow you see can be almost a pet, if we put aside the stereotypical bent. And I wonder if we've given the cow its due. She is perhaps as complex as me or you, not defined by just one thing. So there are two favorite places we like to travel. We like to go to Ireland and we like to go to Hawaii. So the first time we went to Ireland was in the spring, and so there were a lot of baby lamb, out and about. And so I wrote this poem called White Dots Upon the Hill, or Lambs and Rams. Oops, hold on a second. TV just came on.
All right, everybody. So I was, I want to just read, if everybody's not able to see the chats, because some people are just on the phone. Gina, I appreciate your comment. Drew, Gina says that it's cute. She sees a children's picture book in the making.
That's right. So I'm looking for an artist.
Ah, there you go.
If anyone wants to, because I wrote that really in mind with that this was visual, and that there were lessons that would transmit across ages. So I could see this very much for 4th graders, 5th graders, high school, adults, right? Okay.
So actually,
so Lambs and Rams.
Just to add something, Sarah Palazzo in PR, she just illustrated a children's book. So maybe connect with her.
That's a great idea. I'm looking forward to that. I kept thinking my daughter might do it, but she's on to other projects. So, and I can't wait for her anymore. So I'm looking for someone else.
Thanks.
All right. So I agree with that. So thank you.
And can I just interject also? I do love the fact that some of you have your kids popping in and family members. So you guys are as welcome as the flowers in May. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So this is White Dots on the Hill, or Lambs and Rams. On Ireland's hills of emerald green, many dots of white that I often seen. Arriving close at the fence's edge, the dots emerge as sheep upon a rocky ledge. The spring has brought forth many ewe and ram, and a new generation of many playful lamb, who frolic and jump and practice with gleeful art, pure joy and unbridled hope, far from the everyday life of growing a woolen coat. The sheep were adorned with patches of blue or orange or red, a sort of passport or ID, a passing shepherd said, that lets us know to whom they belong when the markings are read. That woolen sweater you wear was shorn from a sheep's hair, and I wonder if the sheep do care when eating grass upon the hill, that forces far away have such a will to twice a year disturb their life and shave their hair with sharpened knife. Disruptions we must also feel when in our lives we are also plucked from coherent plans and lives well lived, and shorn of our collective hides by fate's abide, and redeposited into the world where we reside, and find it all inside and out, and much colder still without our heavy coat of protective warmth and the story we thought we'd wrote. I really thought this one was really appropriate for today. So when we were wandering around, we drove to the end of this road out in the middle of nowhere by the ocean's edge, and pretty soon all these sheep came down the road with the shepherd and the sheepdog and his truck. He was using the truck to herd the sheep. And we had noticed that these sheep all had little splotches of, looked like spray paint on them. So we asked him about it, and he said, well, that's how they know whose sheep they are, based on the color pattern. So that's what I was referencing. Now, we also go to Kauai, in Hawaii. So Kauai is an interesting place in that it has wild chickens. So if you've been to Kauai, part of the wildlife, every place you go, there are chickens. They escaped during a hurricane in the late 90s. And so you're staying in your condo, and early in the morning, of course, your windows are all open. So you hear the roosters crow in the morning. This is just part of waking up at 5 or 6 in the morning in Kauai. So I wrote this one called The Rooster and the Moon, because there was this crazy rooster who didn't quite understand when was the right time to crow. That crazy rooster who crows at the moon, hoping to encourage a hen to swoon, or confused by the quality of that eerie soft white light, thinking it's the sun, just not as bright. Clearly this bird wants to have its say and be the first to announce the day. I suppose for chickens, that's their way, and part of the charm of a Kauai stay. At each interval of the clock, he lets go a few wretched bars and stops, enough to make his point and keep me awake, his importance inflated for just his own sake, with no other purpose than to make it known that he is here and not alone. With my earplugs in, I am now transformed as an astronaut in an alien land, Hearing each breath loud and plain, the outside world begins to wane. And that crazy rooster, stubborn and insane, is, I think, not to blame. For being without the capacity for flight, crowing through the night is the one thing he can do, and do it now with all his might.
Excellent.
So a couple more. So as I was writing these things, I started having some thoughts of when I was a kid. So this one is a recollection called Playing Possum. I hear the bark of my dog outside in the clear dark night, echo, and I am sent outside into the wild, or so I pretend, sent out by my parents to quell the sound of my baying hound. In trepidation, I approach the shape, unmoving upon the ground, a shape that makes nary a sound. My dreams take hold and imagine animals strange and bold that my brave pet has cornered and snared, perhaps a bobcat, lynx, or small bear. And then I see as my eyes adjust that none of these it is, but a possum just. And I wonder if it is playing that game that has its name, playing possum to ward off my dog. And so I grab him by his collar and take him to his pen to holler. I retire into the house and darkening kitchen there, position myself and out the window stare at the possum, wishing that it would move and prove me right. And so it does after minutes past, slipping off into the night. And now all grown, there are times I know I want to be all possum and just pretend that I cannot move, engage, or even bend, that I am out to lunch or sick instead, that a strange illness has infected my head and sent me to bed. Play possum to ward off all the daily dogs and hounds, retire without a sound, and lay there all still in a metaphorical stupor. Now, wouldn't that be just super? So the last one I'll read to you is about our cat, Snoopy, who we had for almost 19 years, died about 4 years ago. So this is entitled Snoopy the Cat, Not from a Hat. What is the job of the cat, be he lean, striped, spotted, or fat? Curiosity is what all cats show. After all, we know well how the saying goes. And clearly I have seen that many times from each height that Snoopy, our cat, attempts to climb. The joy of the chase following a simple string, or the fascination that an empty bow or sack can bring. He goes on walks upon his leash, round half a block and then retreats. Cars stop and slow, and inside I know, the conversation goes, that this cat is so cute, walking like a dog. Now isn't that a hoot? Is this his job then, to provide such glee to passerbys? Well, maybe. A curled paw placed carefully over one eye, a built-in sleep mask to block the sky. The many places he can lie that bring a twinkle to my eye. Some early morns we awake to find a gift of mouse presented as on a plate. In history past, we know it's true that catching the mouse was what a cat should do. But when he chooses to come upon the bed and curl up on Karen's head, or perhaps onto my lap and purr loudly the kitten's rap, that I know what is his central and most important task. The cat's main job is to give love, whether on my lap or with a long leg rub. And isn't that our job as well? To act in ways that others can tell, that we have hope and love to give, purring in human terms, a joy that we live. And I wish that for all of you, that you find happiness and hope, and that you remember what makes us who we are and human beings is giving love and hope to other people. And I know as members of the Molloy community, that that is what we all do every day. It's so wonderful to see all of you.
Thank you, Drew. Does anybody want to ask Drew any questions before we sign off? I know we're a little bit over time, but you know what's great about working remotely? We can extend this 5 minutes. So if anybody has anything they'd like to say, or if you want to throw something in the chat, I can read it off. But you could also, what I allowed is for you to unmute yourself if somebody wants to say something. And before I stop talking, Diana was showing us her dog. Maybe we should do one of these one morning where we can all show our pets at home.
Oh, what a great idea.
Share our pet names. I think that might be a fun thing to do because none of us know what pets you have. And I don't care if you're showing us a fishbowl.
Okay, my cat is on the couch over there. So
Anybody else? Anybody want to pipe in? We've got some thank yous to you, Drew. Some people are signing off. And Corey wants us to know that we all should get ready for her hissing cockroaches.
Yeah.
She did bring her to the Blessing of the Animals in January and September, so we missed not seeing them. And we do have a message up to you, Drew. It says, thank you. That was really uplifting. Good presentation. Thank you, Drew and Kathy. These were some of the messages, but those were on just audio only. Did anybody want to say anything before we shut down for today? But we'll be back tomorrow, and tomorrow will be more of an open forum to see how you all are doing. TGIF is what we're calling it. Okay, we're all signing off then.
Okay, bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
it's so good to see everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Stay safe and be.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
All right, so let's see.